Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So yesterday we discussed Krishnamurti's vision of using dialogue as a means of religious inquiry, both a dialogue with oneself and a dialogue in a group. And what are the requirements from our side to participate in that way? Today, I want to introduce a talk which Krishnamurti gave at a trustees meeting in 1982 in Sanand. And we can have a dialogue around it. In this talk, it describes how people react to his teachings. If you listen carefully, you can place yourself in this dialogue as to where you are, because it talks about where people are stuck with regard to his teaching. So I'll share the screen and then we will read it together. Are you able to see it on your screen?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Part of it is covered with our pictures. So how do I get rid of that? Should you? I want to cut out these pictures here so that this thing occupies the whole screen. Shall I? The plus this.
Sir, it is up to the individual. You can rearrange their windows. Sir, as you're concerned, and I think you shared the screen and
Minimize, correct?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, if it is okay for you, it is okay for us, at least for me.
No, now it's okay for me. Earlier it was not okay for me, but I minimized those pictures. So now it's okay. So you are able to all see?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
It is entitled, What is he trying to tell me? Krishnaji says, I am an ordinary man. I come across a book of case and I'm struck by one or two statements that are made in the book and would like to know more about it. I see he is against, or that he is not for, so-called spiritual institutions and organizations. And he talks to me about my problems. He indicates what my problems are and the resolution of those problems. And say I have a problem, I'm not happy in my work. I'm not happy in my relationship with others. I'm rather bored with the whole life because I have found it has very little meaning actually. I go to work, I have sex, I have a family or no family, and I drink and all that. If I'm in India, I am tradition bound, and I see he is anti-tradition, if I may use that word. He doesn't give me any guidelines. Whether I am Western, European, or Eastern, and Indian, it doesn't give me any guidelines. And I want guidelines. I am used to that. And because there are no guidelines, I may put away the book. I say, what nonsense is he talking about? But if I am fairly inquisitive, I say, why doesn't he have guidelines? Why doesn't he tell me what to do? And I begin to inquire and read more. I discovered that guidelines only make one more mechanical, more subjectively non-aware. So I pursue that. And I also see that there have been guidelines before, because I have studied religious affairs somewhat. So I say now, what am I to do? That is my fundamental question. What am I to do living an ordinary life, going to the office or factory, or doing some kind of labor? What am I to do? In my reading of the book, does he tell me what I should do? And he doesn't do that either. So what is he trying to tell me? He's trying to tell me, be aware of yourself, recognize your condition, see what the traps are, and investigate those traps. The religious trap, the economic trap, and so on and so on. What he is trying to tell me is basically to awaken my intelligence. Not his intelligence or the intelligence which appears in the book. He's trying to tell me, for goodness sake, awaken your intelligence, bring it out, question, argue, discuss, doubt. He's telling me all that. Therefore, I begin to find out that I am rather stupid, vulgar, coarse person. But I am not too insensitive. And he's telling me, wake up, it's your life. Subtly bring order to it. My whole upbringing has been, tell me what to do. So I'm resisting this. And I fall back on that. Tell me what to do. And yet he says, don't ask what to do, but go into it, discuss. So there is in me the resistance and what I have read. There is a conflict between what I have read and my resistance. I come to an impasse because I am lazy, because family life and all those problems, and I rather let go for a while. It may be a year or 6 months or a day. I'll let it go for a while. But the seed has been sown in me. to see that you are responsible for your own actions and nobody else. This is what he tells me, and I agree. I see the logic of it, so I accept that. But I have work, I go to office, factory, I'm a carpenter or a scientist or whatever it may be. And I see more and more the contradiction in my life between what I have read and what I am. So there is a schizophrenic activity going on, a verbal acceptance of the book and of what I have read, and then my daily life. So I am now concerned with the conflict. I am suddenly aware that my whole life is based on conflict. Now again I say, please tell me what to do about this terrible conflict I have. So in me, there is again this contradiction taking place. Tell me, let me accept your ideas. Then I am gradually aware that I am building up authority. I gradually become conscious that I really want authority, somebody to guide me. And there he says, don't do that. Be a light to yourself. It is, and I give it up. It is so difficult, so hopelessly. I am lost. I am lost and perhaps depressed. And I say, well, it's not worth it. Let's wash it out. I haven't got the energy. I haven't got the drive. Perhaps I shall one day get somewhere or the other. That is what generally happens with most of us, as I understand it. I may be wrong. There are those who have come to this point and continue. Do not give up. Do not throw in the sponge. And probably that is the case with most of us. Then I see the importance of the awakening of intelligence and the awakening to the reality that I must be a light to myself. I am not very clever. I'm fairly efficient in my mundane activity. But this demands quite a different kind of intelligence, quite a different kind of flowering. So where am I now? I have to live in this world. I have to earn money. I have a family. I have to support it. My wife isn't interested in all this. My children go to school, get more and more vulgar, coarse, insensitive, and I have no relationship with them. So I see the terrible mess I have made for myself and for others. Now, how am I to awaken that intelligence so that I can deal with all this? I have read quite a bit, not only K, but other books. I know a little bit of Indian philosophy, what the Buddhists have said. I'm not specially interested in Christianity because there is no philosophy behind it. It's based on belief, faith, authority. So that doesn't very much appeal to me. So I realize that I am in this mess and I am asking myself, what am I to do? How am I to awaken that intelligence? which with clarity will deal with all these matters of relationship and so on and so on. And he says, be aware of the outside world, what is happening there. Look at it without any bias. I find that rather difficult, but I am attempting to be aware of my prejudices, my conditioning. And I am becoming aware of my activities, my thoughts, my feelings, the fields of my insensitivity. I am rather vain, I am ambitious, and so on. So I'm discovering in myself the factors, the sources of my insensitivity. And the beginning of this intelligence is slightly creeping in. It's not in full bloom, but it is beginning. And I begin to see actually things that are not true in my life, the things that are rather false, hypocritical. So I begin to say, is it possible not to be hypocritical, not to pretend, not to put on masks according to the environment, according to the people I meet? I see that it is possible, and I begin to discard all this. I am beginning to realize that intelligence is not the denial of the false, but rather the awareness of the false. I am beginning to realize that the things I thought were valuable or had some significance have actually no meaning at all. The values I have set for myself, the ideals actually have no value, have no depth to them. That very perception that they have no depth to them makes those that are false, of no significance, fade away. I haven't struggled against them, said they were right or wrong, but the very perception that they have no meaning, that they are not true, that very perception is beginning to wipe away that which is not. So I am becoming, not becoming, yes, I will use the word becoming. I am becoming more and more aware, more and more alert, more and more watchful. And he also says in that book something rather odd, which I don't quite understand. He says, don't go through all this process. Jump to it. Don't go step by step by step. That's a waste of time. In that step by step, you can go on indefinitely, discovering various forms of self-deception and so on. So he says, don't allow time between seeing and action. And that to me is so extravagantly outside my field. So I'm investigating what he means by that. So I begin to see the importance of perception and its relationship to action. That is my position. That is what I would state. That is what an ordinary person, which I am, would say, having come to that point and being stuck there. I go round and round in circles, but somehow I am incapable of breaking that circle. So I ask you who have written that book or given those statements, what am I to do? And he repeats the same thing. Don't rely on another. He's perpetually throwing me against myself. So I am rather bored with that. I might say, oh, go to hell. I'm stuck with you and you don't help me. And he says, nobody can help you. No institutions, no organizations, no external authority or pressures of any kind can help you. Do I listen to him? Or is my anxiety to break the circle so great that I am not even listening to what he is saying? So I'm there. I'm not listening. And you come along and tell me to listen. When I have a serious problem with myself, wanting an answer, I'm concerned about the problem very deeply, I find myself incapable of listening. The problem is so biting, so deeply disturbing, and you say to me, listen. I can't. I don't know how to listen. But you have told me the action of listening, and that seed has been sowed. So I am listening. I am learning. So I'm doing the same thing which he has warned me against. Don't allow time. I think that I will learn listening, learn all about it, gradually, slowly, at my convenience. And he says, that's just a waste of time. So I have come to that point. Now proceed. 23rd July 1982. May I close the screen now?
Yes, sir.
And we can start the dialogue. Somebody must coordinate the dialogue. Mr. Rao, Prasad, perhaps, or Kasimir.
I'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a way to, anybody who wants to speak can raise their hand. There is a tab called reactions, and if you click on that, it says there's a reaction to raise the hand. So if you raise the hand and coordinating Mr. Rao,
Yeah, I'll
you will coordinate. And so in your participants window, you know who raises the hand, and you can go there and ask them to speak.
Yes, sir.
And then you can also lower their hand for yourself.
Okay.
Sir?
That's good. That sounds good.
People who have camera on, so use a gesture like this, and they hold their hand for about a few seconds. Will also raise the hand for them. In this particular case, my hand was raised, and I can go ahead and lower my hand if I don't want to speak.
So Prasad Garu, that is good.
That is clear, everybody.
Yeah, it is good. So I would like you to go ahead and adjust the Zoom settings so that the person, whoever is speaking, will be seen. Right now, I see only Professor Krishna's face.
What we will do is we will remove the spotlight.
Yes.
And then
you have to go to speaker view. Speaker view.
right. And what would happen is whoever is would automatically be shown.
So Prasad Garu, it might be a little difficult to do that. So let's just go ahead and unmute everybody, and then they can go ahead and begin to speak. And if the speaker's face is lit up, I will have an opportunity to recognize the person and allow them to go ahead and then contribute to the discussion. Is that okay?
That's fine. That's fine.
Let's do that, sir.
Okay.
And I'll
I
just say,
don't think we can unmute everybody. I think each person has to unmute themselves if they want to speak.
actually, that's very good, Donna. That really is helpful. Very good.
There is suggestion from my side that if you will unmute everyone, there will be chaos in the room because there will be voices coming from here and there.
We're
So
not going
better-
to do that. We're not going to unmute everyone. We'll just let each person unmute themselves.
Yeah, and the second suggestion is that there is an option for reaction. So anybody can raise virtual hand instead of
Right.
physical hand.
That is true, but what I'm finding is that it is not possible for all the people's hands to be recognized at one time. We have over 60 people right now. So
It'll just put them in order of whoever raised it first. It'll just put them in that order.
right. The thing is that I'm not able to see all of the people at one shot, Donna. That's the difficulty. Yeah, that's the
I see.
difficulty. So in order to maintain the impromptu quality of the dialogue, I suggest that somebody can go ahead and speak. And then if the face lights up, then I'll be able to recognize them. Okay.
That sounds good. Sounds good. And request parts who want to speak, if they could turn on their video, I think that will help.
Okay. I'm going to say a few words at the outset after listening to what Professor Krishna had shared to kind of get it started. This particular passage that you all have heard really belongs to every one of us. Most of us go through these reactions when we listen to A or when we read him. And then we're always perplexed and begin to wonder where we begin with ourselves, right? Oh, we have to begin somewhere. That being the case, I'll now open up the dialogue as to where we begin in this inquiry. Where do we start? Anybody who wants to speak and contribute can go ahead and unmute themselves.
May I go ahead?
Please, sir, go ahead.
I'm unable. Okay. So that passage comes to everyone, and I think it's all it's everybody's mind is like that, and we are looking for some support, some guidance, some guru, and some kind of help or hint. We come closer and closer to that thing that we are not seeking anything, but still we are seeking some kind of hint. We are reading the books, we are listening to K, but we are not getting any kind of hint because he is abandoned us and saying that you are light to yourself, and we do not know how to become a light to ourselves, because as hard as we try to get deeper into ourselves, we come to know that there is no source of thing to get into. We are not able to stay with what is. We are not able to understand ourselves, the self-knowing.
Sir,
And we are not
sir, may I interrupt you at this point?
yeah.
Please speak for yourself as to where you will start, sir.
Sorry, what?
The question on the table is, where do I begin in terms of my inquiry? Where do I begin? In other words, sir, where do you begin, sir?
I'm not getting it. I'll come back.
Okay. Anybody else who wants to respond to that question?
You have to begin from yourself only. Start inquire how you think, what is the mechanism of thinking, how you function every day. You start from yourself.
Yes, sir. Is that what you do?
Yes, yes, all the things which has been narrated, it is there every home, everywhere it is there. And if I start understanding my thought, the moment of thought, if I understand myself, how I function every day, and that moment, if I understand, so I will go a little deeper. Before reading, before going through these talks and JK's talks, I was really unable to understand my thoughts. My thoughts were so random that I could not apprehend my thoughts. And in fact, in difficult situations, I was running away from confronting the situation, real situation. Now, I could able to understand my thoughts, so I can able to understand the problem, and now I am facing the problem. I am now understanding the people around me with whom I am living. My awareness is better. Of course, comparison is also not good here, but I'm comfortable now with people. I'm now comfortable with the problems. I'm able to solve the problems. So begin with ourselves.
Yes,
Because
sir.
if I understand myself, I think I can understand all 70 members here who are sitting here.
Yes, sir.
And in one sentence, I would like to say and end, sir. Whenever I meet anybody, physically, I may be different, he may be different in appearance, but psychologically, he is same. What I am, he is also the same. That is the stage now I am. I don't find any difference between me and my wife. Psychological, structurally, she is same with me as I am. I am angry, she is angry. If I say anger words, it is a retaliation. Again, she uses. If I say comfortable and lovely words, smooth words, she is also replies like that. So every content of me is the content of my wife. So I begin with my wife, so I can understand more about the human beings and I understand my wife. I end with this, sir. I end with this. Thank you.
Okay. That sounds good, sir.
This
Ivan,
is
I would
Mark.
like to question. Oh, somebody saying, sorry. Yeah.
No, you go ahead, please.
Thank you.
There's just a small question. Many times I wondered when we talk about it, we are talking of the where do we begin? But do we really have to have a beginning point or a reference point to begin? Or it just flows? Even studying myself becomes a reference point or beginning point somewhere.
So essentially, ma'am, what you are saying is that I have to begin with myself as to where I am.
No, I'm even questioning that when we say, everybody says that I'm beginning with myself, that myself also becomes a reference point.
Yes, ma'am.
So does it, this is what happens to me. Does it happen to everyone, everybody else?
Let's listen to other people as to how they respond to it.
Okay, could I say something?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, namaskar. First of all, I must be forgiven for pointing out, with all humility, pointing out a dichotomy in the question, where do I begin? Because after listening to what Professor Krishna read out, this message that Krishna conveyed probably in a historic meeting or in a historic draft is not meant for the beginners. It is for the people who have journeyed with him, who has traveled with Krishna ji, who has read, who has heard, maybe who has had a series of discussions with him over a period of time. It may be 1 week, it may be 1 decade. That is meant for such people. So to me, because I remember I first met him twice in the year 1977, first in Mumbai and then in Rishi Valley, where the question is, where do I end? Or is there anything like bidding farewell to Krishnamurti? Is there anything like that? I have asked myself. And then the answer which comes spontaneously, there is nothing like bidding farewell, saying goodbye to Krishnamurti. Why? Because I am not holding him. I have heard him. Something has gone into my very blood, bone, marrow, and everything. It has sunk deeper. Now, the way I conduct myself, my whole demeanor, my whole body language, my whole way of conducting myself, probably if there is some perfume that this person has caught, that perfume will just speak for itself. So for me, it is not a question of beginning. It is a question of whether I am living that perfume in my daily life or not. Thank you very much.
Very well explained, sir. It's a matter of living the teachings according to the statements that you're making, and it certainly has its place in this. At the same time, there has to be a recognition that there are quite a few new people to Krishnamurti who have not walked with him, listened to him, weren't even alive at the time that Krishnamurti was there, unlike yourself, sir. And here it is, the very first statement that Professor Krishna has read out is, I am an ordinary man. I am an ordinary man with all these difficulties and all these troubles and all these problems in my life. And how do I approach? Where do I begin? That's the context in which this question is being raised, sir. And as we go along, we can perhaps modify the question, but let's listen to what others have to say.
I'll jump in, Rao. It's Mark, if that's okay.
Yes, Mark, go ahead, sir.
I interpreted the question as being a historical one. Where did I start? And I did have a start. I've been studying Krishnamurti along with Vedanta and some other things for, 25 years now, and I still consider myself a beginner. But in terms of asking the question that I think was asked, where did I start? I can say my first 2 steps I recall pretty clearly. The first was confusion, and the second was humility. And one of the things that
Thank you.
I
Sorry, I
learned
made
from
all this.
May I make
Just
a
one-
request to everybody,
Yeah.
please? Other than the person who is speaking, can you all please mute yourself? I sincerely appreciate your cooperation.
Okay, so I'm going to mute all. Mark, you can unmute yourself. Anybody who wants to speak, unmute.
Yeah,
Speak and then
you
mute.
did you want me to continue, Prasad, or to mute myself?
I'm going to mute all, and you will have to unmute yourself. Mark?
Okay, I'm still unmuted, but
Okay, so
think
now
I'm-
I muted everybody. Let's say.
okay. And there was some background noise that I picked up when I was talking, so I'm unsure whether you and Rao want me to start over or assume that everyone heard what I said.
You can go ahead and start all over, Mark, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So I mentioned that I thought I heard a personal historical question, which I interpreted as, where did Mark Donahue start? And I mentioned that I've actually been involved with Krishnamurti more or less for 25 years in terms of, but for a long time. But the question was, where did I start? And my answer was that I remember being on vacation in Northern California, and I picked up at a used bookstore, The Awakening of Intelligence. And I don't know what it was, but it was just something that attracted my interest. And I remember sitting at a pool in a motel, starting to read this book and being totally confused. I'm trained as a lawyer, and so I tend to be somewhat analytical when I read things. So I thought about things that now make sense thanks to Professor Krishna, like, well, what is this intelligence? Because it wasn't sitting right with me. It just didn't sound right. That was my confusion. And then I studied a little bit about Krishnamurti, and that's where the humility came in. And I said, this guy is no dummy, and so it must be me. And so that's, I think, the full answer, because the question was limited not to how did Mark develop, but how did Mark start? So the two things, confusion and humility. And with that, unless there's a question, I'll mute myself.
Very, very, very well put, Mark, in terms of where you had begun and then where you are at this point in time. And most of us can relate to that, sir. Here's the slight modification to the question, so it may be clearer. The question that is in front of us, is as follows. I am here today on July 1st or the July 2nd, depending on wherever I am in this world at this hour. And then I am where I am, wherever I am in time, in terms of my psychological, in terms of where my consciousness is, and so on. Here I am. And whatever is arising in me is what is happening at this point in time. See, sir? That being the case, I wonder if that's not the place where I would start. Obviously, I'm speaking for myself, and you don't have to accept a word or anything that I'm saying. So the context in which the question is being raised is wherever I am, whatever is going on in my life today and now, that's where the things are. I might have met Krishnamurti 40 years ago, worked with him, not worked with him, whatever it might be. I'm just an ordinary man. Here I am today. So where do I go from here? How do I approach? Where do I begin? That's the kind of question that's being put on the table, sir and ma'ams.
So if I understand you, it's not a question of where did each of us 60 people start. It's where do we restart, or where do we go from here today now? Is that what you're saying, Rao?
Pretty much, sir.
I'll take a quick stab. It's when I go to Ojai, I sit down with Ulrich and I tap into his brain and I try to listen to David Moody. I'll stop there.
Okay. All right, good. Anybody else who wants to share their piece? Sir, ma'am?
Good morning to you all. I am Ramakrishnan. I am from India. Can I pose a question, please?
We are working on a question that is on the table, Ramakrishna Garu.
Yes.
If you want to respond to that question or respond to...
Yes, I'll Where do I start?
Yes,
Where
sir.
do I start?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. I see that compulsive thinking is a very insane movement, but I am not able to, rather, it doesn't stop. What will make it stop? What will make this compulsive thinking stop? That is where I will start. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. That's very good. Would you like to elaborate a little more along the lines of what compulsive thinking that you're referring to? Because not all of us might understand what you're saying.
Yes, sir. Surely. In relationship, I have an issue and I try to solve it. It doesn't solve the way I want it to be solved. So what happens is I keep thinking about it again and again and again and again. Though I know that I cannot think anything new, because what I know only I can think.
Mhm.
I know that. And the solution cannot come from what I already know. Because if there is a solution in what I already know, if there is a solution in what I already know, I would have solved the issue in the first place itself. So knowing all this intellectually, still the I'll use the word mind. The mind keeps on, takes the issue and keeps on chewing on the issue again and again in the same lines.
Sure.
Maybe it is trying to find a solution that way.
Sure.
So my question, this is what I say is compulsive thinking. Have I made myself clear, please? Have I made my question clear at least?
I think so, sir. I think you have elaborated enough for us to consider that question. But
Thank you.
But that question is only a part of this whole discussion, because Mr. Ramakrishnan is facing this as a problem that is arising in him at the moment, and somebody else might have something different, which is okay. So let's just go ahead and listen to others, sir.
Thank you very much.
Hari Naidu raised, but just once Hari Naidu raised his hand for a while. Can you speak?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
sir. Mr. Hari Naidu, go ahead and speak. You have to answer. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. So.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Hello. Yeah. So where do we begin with? From my point of view, we have already begun from the birth onwards, because the observation we are making about the environment, we are doing with the environment, is already begun when the 5 sensory organs start working. But when this observation changes to awareness, that is the point where this we are going inwards. That is, we are going from the objective to the subjective. We are going inside. So that is where we began internal journey, and that is what is happening. That's what I wanted.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Krishnaji, where do I begin? Krishnaji repeated this sentence again and again. I am bored. I am bored. Let us ask ourselves, let us do some soul searching and ask ourselves, am I bored with myself, or with my life, or with the world? Please let me remind my respected friends of one line in the Only Revolution, probably the very first chapter, where Krishna says, the world has little to offer except food, shelter, and clothes. If you are hoping for more than this, I'm sorry, you are in for sorrow. Now, suppose my children are doing well. They are doing me proud with their achievements. I have a very fat, huge pension amount, and I'm having a whale of a time in my life, no boss to be frightened of, and all that. And if I'm happy, if I'm not bored, but bored in the sense Krishnaji used, he did not use the word disillusion. But if I have not seen the limitations of this very life, if not, I am not constantly reminded, okay, let my children do all well, but death is there. Death is a reality. If I am not aware of that, then let me first do soul searching, reminding ourselves, I am not in a state to begin at all in the very first place.
Is that what you do, sir?
I don't want to talk too much in first person personal pronoun singular number. But yes, I'm fairly bored with my life. I have seen the limitations. I have been to many gurus, and one guru guru or whatever, religious person, I can never forget. He looked at me, asked me what brought me to him. I told him I was an editor of Rajneesh. That time he was not called Osho, way back in 76 in Pune. And then I left. I went to Krishnamurti. I translated half a dozen books of Krishnamurti. And then I'm here. And he said, then get the hell out of here. I said, why? Because you have come to the wrong person. You think Rajneesh could not give you, Krishnamurti could not give you, so let me try this person. I'm sorry. Well, I did not leave in a huff, but for days together, I felt depressed. But the honest answer was that yes, I went to him with the hope that probably there is something like grace of Guru or transmission of energy. Now, Krishnaji reminds me again and again, I cannot give you, nobody can give you. So I am thrown back upon myself.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Kanan is waiting for a while. Can you go ahead, sir?
Yeah. Thank you, Prasad, for doing that.
Kanan Narayan Swami.
Oh, good. Yeah, good morning. My name is Kannan. I'm from Chennai. Avoiding all the background about myself, I start with one very simple statement. You can say one is stuck at the circle. Clearly, you can see that. So there was one.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Can you repeat that statement? Your one is stuck where?
Yeah, one is stuck at the circle.
The circle.
Yeah, the circle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you if you look back and say, okay, when did you reach the circle? One doesn't know when one reached the circle, but most certainly yes. Can you penetrate that circle? Tough, very tough. Maybe there's grace required, maybe there is no grace, God knows, we don't know. So simply the way to say it is as one Dr. Ravindra talked about this journey. He said, imagine throwing a stone in a pond. The ripples that it creates, the greater the ripples, the farther away from zero ripples you are. Krishnamurti is at zero ripples. I am not going to be at zero ripples, but I can see the mind has calmed, the reactions have slowed down, thought perhaps is better understood by oneself. You can see that, okay, you are not as angry as before, therefore the ripples have come down. But to say the ripples have disappeared altogether, no. Do you need help from somebody else to reduce your ripples? No. Clearly, you are your own master, you are your own decision maker, you take your own your actions and consequences of your action. So you don't, yeah, it's clearly you don't need a guru, but will that happen today? Like Krishnamurti said, sir, jump in with all your energy, jump into it and it shall be done. Well, that probably is Mr. Krishnamurti, not us. And I feel time has a role to play, though there's the significant difference that he claims about between psychological time and actual time. But in actuality, yes, I could see the difference. And I also see that there is a lot to achieve. And that circle is an unsurmountable barrier as of today. Perhaps not, but one doesn't know. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Ravi ji has been waiting for a while. Ravi ji, go ahead, sir.
Where do I stand? I do stand in conflict, confusion, separation, a separation of without and within, separation of thought and thinker, and separation of idea and facts. So from here I have to start.
Okay, I'd like to say a few words. I've been first of all, I think the one that was read, he was talking about me every step of the way. So the question is, what do now? With the suggestion saying that do not allow time, but what now? So for me, the only thing that I could think is, at least I know, is I look for no authority, not in K, nobody but me. That is clear to me. And then what is also clear is what the dysfunction and world, the bigger world, and also my personal world. Not, I see there is a problem. So again, coming back to what do I do now? I guess I just have to remain with that and not forget or go away or be discouraged. And that, and other than that, I don't know.
I have a question at this point based on what Prasad Garu has just contributed. Am I different from whatever that I have described of myself? Whether it has to do with circle that is being addressed, or it has to do with conflict, or it has to do with anything else that so far various participants have contributed. Am I different from that? That's the question on the table now. Anybody go ahead and contribute?
Can I?
Yes,
Can you
Ramkrishna.
repeat, sir? Repeat the question once, sir, if you don't mind.
No problem. I will do that. Now, Vanaparthi Garu has said something about himself. Mark had also said something about himself as to where things are. And several others have stated for themselves as to where they are at. The question on the table now is, whatever that I am describing about myself, whatever I am describing about myself, am I different from that? That's the question to probe into, sir.
No, I am that.
May I say something, sir?
Please go ahead.
I am Rajkumar from Hyderabad. See, what Professor Krishna read out today exactly, applies to me. But now I feel the seed has been put in. And the seed to germinate, it definitely requires time. Maybe time or energy, I am not able to understand. But I have to work within myself. One fine day when I am silent, it could germinate. That is what my view, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Would you respond to the question, am I different from whatever I have described of myself?
So can I come in, sir?
Yes, Ramakrishnan Garu, go ahead.
Now, after having reading JK's books, I intellectually understand that I and the problems which have been discussed are the same, but I still don't see it as a fact that I have 5 fingers. So intellectually, I understand the problems and myself are not different, but still it doesn't to cite an example, I very clearly know that I cannot touch a very hot pan. Similarly, I don't see this as a fact. How do I make that jump? Is it possible? What understanding will make me or will induce a transformation? I finished, sir. I'm finished.
We have heard from one of the participants, Ramakrishnan sir, that the person has been trying for a long time to address a problem using all the knowledge from his past. And he knows that that cannot be done. Yet he keeps going in circles to the same thing, and he wants to address the current problem with the past knowledge, past information, and so on, right? So what does it take if the past information, the past knowledge cannot come to my aid to address the problem that I am describing as myself, and I intellectually know that I am not different from the description? Where do I go from here? What needs to come into play for that switch to take place? You want to call it transformation, or you want to, whatever you want to call it. What needs to be there for something like that to occur? Go into it, sirs.
Go ahead.
Sir, is there a how at all? If there is no how, I mean, not know how as a know how, but no another word how, then what are we looking for? Okay. All you can do is observe, and the very act of observation should help you probably jump that whatever that is. But the how doesn't exist. Very clearly, it never existed. If it existed only for one person, not for the second. And you have to discover that how for yourself. And if that is so, there is no, the journey is your journey. And it might be in conflict with the other person's journey. That means no two journeys need to be the same. And so in that sense, everybody is right. And in this very same sense, everybody is wrong. So the how doesn't exist. In that case, then why are we wanting to know the how, which we are always on the lookout for?
Sir, the question was not how. The question that was placed on the table was what needs to take place? What needs to occur? What is the angst? What's the angst? Or what is the motivator for something to switch, for something?
All of that, sir, all of that is unknown. So the only way conventionally we understand the unknown is that simply, can we reach that unknown? Can we go and measure it? Can we go and approach it? And there are no methods. Your method is your method. The other person's method is his method or her method. And the how is the how that we are discussing in one sense. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that is my opinion about it. That seems to be the way I feel that this discussion is leading us to. Sir, clearly there seems to be no how.
I don't think that is
Mark again.
Baldev, go ahead.
Go ahead, Baldev, sir.
Yeah, this is Baldev Bora from Santa Rosa, California. So what I notice in my life that there is a lot of disorder. So I observe this disorder and I try to see what is the root cause which is happening. And what I find and observe is that the main fundamental problem is conflict. How do I see this conflict? When I talk to my wife, I observe that there is a conflict. So in every action, I find that I have this conflict going on. And not from the past knowledge, I'm observing in the mirror of this relationship that we have a conflict. So I watch it.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I come from, not from any knowledge or anything, but directly observing and watching that, for example, I have images from my wife and she has some images about me. And those images are very different than the facts. So there is a conflict. So you have to watch this. There is no other way. And when you see this very, very attentively, you pay attention. Previously, you might be fighting with her or whatever you do. But now when you see this conflict arising, you can watch it arising. And you just, like they say in English, you don't nip the bud, you just finish it right there. Because it's right there in action.
Yes, sir.
There's no time passing.
Yes.
There is no wastage.
Yes. Yes.
There's no movement.
Yes.
Don't let the movement happen. Because once the movement happens, which is obviously coming from your thinking, so don't let this movement and thinking happen. Watch it. Just like you watch a snake. It's coming. and you stop it right there. So
Nip it in the
perhaps that's the way I have been watching myself tirelessly every moment to see my thinking, what is causing. And then there are other factors like fear, because my house is in disorder. So where's this fear is coming? We have to watch it again. If there is an authority, if there is a illusion. Previously I believed in gods and all that, but now when I see that there is no God, this is fear from me, which has created the God. So I'm responsible for my God. It's an illusion. Till we see that, observe that in our daily life, every moment. And I think the answer lies in there, not the past knowledge or from the memory. You have to be very attentive to watch every movement, everything which you're thinking. The thinking has a right place. But in psychological fields, thinking has no value. Because again, the time factor comes into play. And any motive which comes into play with that. So that's all waste. So that's my approach after studying Krishnamurti very closely and watching and try to work every moment with a very keen observation. There is no other way. And I think I'm able to, when I watch this whole drama, the mind becomes silent. Not that I'm trying to make it silent. It is silent. And it also watches that this observer, which is coming from the past, is exactly the observed. So this clash between observer and observed is finished in that observation.
Yes, sir.
And that gives a glimpse of a silence. And you see this in action. The mind becomes quiet.
Yes, sir.
That's my observation, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Baldev, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Can Hari Naidu has been waiting. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So the description of ourselves, which we are making, means that is I, me, mine, which I am making. It is only the conditioned mind, which is only my conditioned mind I am speaking about. I am speaking. So what is this conditioned mind? The conditioned mind, my mind is being conditioned from my birth onwards, from childhood onwards. So my traditions, my environment, my teachers, my schooling, my country, my geographic location. So this is what I am speaking. That is myself. This is what the conditioned mind. So what is actually what you want to know about me? What actually is that conditioned mind and is real about me? Exactly, it is not reality about me. So what is what is the real picture about me? So real picture of every human being, not only about myself, every human being is the unconditioned mind. So unconditioned mind, unconditioned mind, how we are able to? So by observation. So observation, is there self in the observation? Yes, there is self in the observation. But this observation, if it is gradually goes down to awareness, then the self dissolves. There is no self in that. So in this self, in this awareness, what is happening is the conditions, which have been built up from my childhood onwards, that are broken down, that are destroyed, that are broken down, and the real picture emerges. So that real picture which emerges, that is the me or self or this thing. So there is no self there actually. That is what I mean. That is what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So you you are echoing once again the not once again. You are echoing the sentiment that has just been placed in front of us by Baldev Vohra. Observation, watchfulness, attention. These appear to be the key in this whole thing based on what I'm hearing from you both people, or both of you sirs. And let's go to the next person, Prasad Garu.
Yeah, we don't have any reasons. You can go ahead and speak.
Okay, so the observations that have been made by participants up to this point are, as I can see it, and if I'm not capturing this whole information, please go ahead and correct me, and I'm open to corrections, is that I have to begin with myself wherever I am. The description that I'm making of myself as to where I am, whether it has to do with conflict in relationships or anything else, any other things that have been said up to this point, I have to begin there. I have to start there. And that's where I have to do all the work. I've also heard that there is no authority, and that, as Baldevji has pointed out, God is a projection that has come out of my own fears, even that. So there is nobody to help me, nobody outside of myself to provide guidance, hold my hand, and lead the way for me. So this is a work that I have to do myself. The other thing that also has been said is that all of the knowledge that I have obtained up to this point, all my past experiences, and all those things, they are not coming to my aid in resolving my problem. These are all the things that have been put on the table. And if I'm missing anything, please go ahead and add or correct me.
I'll just add, not to contradict anything, this is Mark, but just a gloss. I think two of the major themes that we've been hearing are self-observation, obviously, but also communication and relationship. And I see them as related. My own view is that ultimately it is up to me, and I have to somehow look inside and see myself. But I know that I'm not sufficiently developed that that's easy, or that I can do it readily. And so what I have to do is maybe try to see myself indirectly, which is where I think the relationship part comes in. Now, I mentioned conversations with Ulrich and just passing conversation, but listening to lectures from people like David Moody and of course, Professor Krishna. And for me, those, they're not gurus. They're not going to point the way, but they're people in whom I have a degree of confidence that they understand Kay's teaching, at least their own version of Kay's teaching. And I can use them as a mirror to look at what the problems that they perceive and the solutions that they take and what they run into. And if they don't match up with my experience, that gives me some insight that helps me with self-observation. So for me, it doesn't make sense to pull apart the concept of observation from the concept of relationship. I think that the two are related, and I think I'll stop there because other people probably can add on to that.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else want to contribute? Please go ahead and do that.
Yeah, Rob, the only other thing that I want to add is the matter of time. So to me, I think that something is there is process and there is some step to. I believe, I don't know, believe is the right word, and I sense that when Kay said that that's a waste of time, to allow time is a waste of time. Take that seriously, and I'm not saying that I know what to do, but I'm serious in saying that it's not. It's there's really nothing that needs to happen between now. Later, I think so. Just wanted to add that as well, because I feel that it's an important advice.
So, Prasad Garu, would you elaborate a little more about the aspect of time? It's not, maybe there was some internet problem or something. It has not come through very clearly, sir. Time.
Yeah,
think
Prasad, you have two microphones on. So there's positive feedback in your amplifier of your computer.
Are you hearing me properly now?
It's a little better. Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just that I was commenting about the issue of time, allowing time and thinking that that there is a process involved, and take advice seriously that is a waste of time, and I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Anybody else wants to say something? Prasad Garu, I'm so sorry. There is echo coming. It's not very clearly coming through. So let's move on to the next person if they want to contribute. Phil, did you want to say something? Phil Abel, did you want?
No, I'm fine. Allow other people to speak. Thank you.
Ravi ji.
Yeah, I'm in my current position is that I have realized intellectually that thought is the biggest problem, and without ending of the thought, there will be no silent mind, and without a silent mind, I will not be having tremendous energy, and I need energy to stay with the thought or to dig in deeper into myself. So that the root cause of the problem is thinking, thought, and thought creating the separate self on all the problems with the separation. So without ending of the thought, I will not be able to do anything with myself.
So very aptly put, sir. Thought is not able to help me in addressing my problems. Thought is merely a response of my past memories, and it cannot really help me with whatever is happening now in the present moment. Now, the question then is, why do we give importance to thought? If we do not give importance to thought and memory, then they won't bother us in our abilities to deal with our issues and problems. Why is it that we give so much importance to thought? And is it possible to put thought in its place for me to be able to use my language to communicate with you, or to write a letter, to go home, I need to know the directions, and so on.
Raghu, just take a time check with you. We have about 5 minutes to 10 o'clock.
Okay, I think we have to stop our dialogue at this point. And I would like to take these last few minutes, if I may, to express my sincere gratitude, deep felt gratitude, which I'm not speaking just for myself. I'm speaking on behalf of all of my group and the participants that have contacted me verbally and also in writing. The deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to Professor Krishna for the amount of effort that he has put in, for immediately responding to our request to come in and then work with us in providing these lecture sessions to all of us. Very, very grateful to him, sir. We have about 209 registrants, and on average, on most of the days, we have had about 70 to 75 participants in this. And then I can say for all of them, really, that we have immensely benefited from your talks, sir. So please accept our gratitude in that sense. I also want to express my gratitude to Prasad, Donna, and Krasimir for the extraordinary amount of effort that they have put in organizing these sessions for us. And I'm very, very thankful, and I'm saying this on behalf of all of us, Prasad, Donna, and Krasimir, for doing this for us. Thank you so much for it.
Sir, one more request. Can I request you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Whatever Professor Krishna has shown in his screen, can we get a copy of that? Is it possible, sir?
Yes, we will do that. Yes,
Thank
Raj.
you very much.
Yeah, definitely. So allow me to continue.
Yes.
The other thing that I wanted to mention, and it is equally important, my gratitude to all the participants who have taken the time to be here, recognizing the importance of Krishnamurti and his teachings in their day-to-day living. And this does not end here. This probably is a beginning, in the sense that whatever knowledge that we have acquired and whatever insight that may have come into our minds, we move with those things and we see what's going on in this world. The world is in a mess. Just look at it. Until 1947, just India and Pakistan were together. And if something happened to a Muslim or a Hindu, doesn't matter, in that whole of that area was our problem. Now, if something happens in Pakistan, which is a disaster, the Hindu in India will say, wow, that is great. And exactly the opposite on the other side. The world is in a mess, and we see that. So the challenge in front of all of us is to take these teachings very seriously and then perceive the urgency to do something with those things and not just stop here. This is just the beginning, sirs and ladies. So thank you very much for your participation and then working with us and helping us conduct this program in a very, very smooth way. And thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Rao.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Hey, Ram, maybe Professor Krishna would like some final
Yeah.
words.
Yes, ma'am. Professor Krishna, sir, are you there? Would you like
Yes,
to say?
I'm here. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I've been listening very carefully.
Yes, sir.
I want to say that there is no such thing as the other man's problem. It is incidental that someone faces a particular problem because we are all separate individuals, separately conditioned and with different lives. So different problems arise within us. But we share a common consciousness. So you can also learn not only by seeing yourself, you can also learn by really looking at the other man's life and his problems. Because potentially the same problem could arise also in your life. So there is no such separation as me and you. It appears like that, but if you examine it deeply, you find that it is different. The other point on which I would like to make a comment is someone raised the issue of time. You see, time is used for taking steps, for making effort, either to get something extra or try to change your thinking and so on. But as Krishnaji has pointed out, all that keeps you exactly where you are psychologically. Because the problems are arising because one is approaching life in a mistaken way, in a false way. And unless that is corrected, the problems keep coming. And there may be different problems for different people and different problems at different times for oneself also. So what he has taught is perception is real action. We think that the real action is what we decide to do. But that decision is limited by what your thinking and your approach is. So it doesn't really take you beyond. It keeps you moving in that same circle. The only way you can come out of it is to have a perception that your approach is false. Mr. Rao referred to the problem between India and Pakistan. The problem is not Hindu and Muslim. The problem is the way we are approaching this issue between the two countries. If we don't realize that and we keep blaming each other, you don't move, although you take lots of actions, but more or less we have remained in the same position after 48 years or more. But if you change the perception, if you no longer think, is this my land or is this their land? But you go to a deeper understanding that what does it mean to own that land? That then you are in charge and responsible for the welfare of those people who live there and the place. And so is the other person thinking the same, then the problem dissolves. But when you ask, is it mine or is it yours? Then you end up in war. Otherwise, you could cooperate and say, well, you also want the welfare of these people. We also want the welfare of these people. Let's join hands and do it together. Whatever you can contribute, you contribute. Whatever we can contribute, we will contribute. And the problem dissolves. But that's a level of thinking which is completely different from the level of thinking which creates the problem. Einstein also in physics said that. He said the same level of thinking which created the problem cannot solve it. You need to go to a higher level of thinking. That means You have to question the assumptions on which the previous level of thinking was based. And something is wrong in those assumptions. Unless you realize that and go beyond those assumptions, you don't get an insight. The insight is not part of the known, it is beyond the known, and we have the capacity for that. But as someone pointed out during the dialogue today, thinking does not solve these problems. There is a chapter in our book which we have been studying addressing this issue. Can thinking solve our problems? And Krishnaji explains very clearly why thinking cannot solve the problem, because it is that level of thinking which has created the problem. We are not aware of it. We are blaming somebody else's thinking and so on. But actually, our own thinking creates the problem. So there is a lot of self-deception in this. There is also a chapter on self-deception. So this learning doesn't end here. There are many chapters in this book, and please persist with them and go into those questions, not only intellectually, but use those questions to observe your own life in everyday life, and you can get deeper perceptions for yourself. It is those deeper perceptions which really bring about a change, not the thinking, not the effort. Those things don't bring about a change. In one of our dialogues, I did point out that Krishna said the future is now. Psychologically, the future is now. So long as you are approaching life in the same way, the same problems will recur with some variations here and there, but you will never come to peace, to a different way of living. So, but if you look at the issue differently, then only it undergoes change. That's what it means that perception is real action, because that's what brings real change. And perception is not a matter of time. Effort is a matter of time. Getting something, learning something, increasing your knowledge and so on, all that is a matter of time. But perception is not a matter of time. But time, chronological time passes, whether you have a perception or don't. The time doesn't help you to have perception. It passes anyway. The earth won't stop going around the sun. That's because you have not had a perception. But your consciousness will undergo change only when you come upon a deep perception for yourself. That's what the teaching is. And thank you for all of you for your patience, for listening to me. And I want to say that I'm not a teacher. I am also learning, through all these dialogues. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. And with this, we shall go ahead and close the session. Thank you all.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Dr. Krishna.
Thank you, Professor Krishna.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Krishna.
Professor Krishna.